In year 2000, the United Nations adopted what is called the Millennium Development Goals, or MDGs. Millennium Development Goals had 8 goals, mostly for social development, including some goals for public health. The Millennium Development Goals contributed to the promotion of human development, especially in some areas, such as poverty reduction, public health, and education. But it was more or less too much focused on social development, so there was not much of balance among the so-called 3 dimensions of development. Economic and environmental dimensions were kind of left out. So they thought they need, when MDGs were expiring in 2015, so before that, the international community tried to work out a new set of development goals that would start from 2016. So this time around, they considered the achievements and limitations of MDGs, as well as what was called emerging new challenges. And as I said, 2 of them are most important: growing inequality and climate change. So they took all of them into account, and they worked out what was called the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. In 2015, in September, the world leaders got together in the United Nations for a special summit meeting, and they adopted the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, which contained the SDGs. The SDGs have 17 goals, much more than the MDGs, which only had 8 goals. So you can say that the SDGs are more comprehensive just by comparing the numbers of the goals. You can realize that. But other than that, SDGs have some important characteristics. First of all, it is universality. Universal means that SDGs are for both developing countries and developed countries. If you look at these 17 goals, you realize that some goals, for example, reducing inequality, SDG 10, climate action, SDG 13, these goals are more important in a way for developed countries, because it is the developed countries that have to take action to reduce carbon emissions and to take more action to deal with climate change, for example. So that's why we call the SDGs universal. They are not just for developing countries, but for everyone, including developed economies. An overarching principle for the SDGs is no one will be left behind, or we sometimes say, leaving no one behind. This is a principle to make sure that when achieving the SDGs, we need to first take care of the most vulnerable groups in our society, such as women, children, persons with disabilities, migrant workers. So these people are vulnerable groups in any society. So if these vulnerable people are taken care of, then the whole of society will be naturally lifted when it comes to the efforts for development. There are some other characteristics, including SDGs has SDGs have follow-up and review mechanism, whereas MDGs didn't. Also, SDGs are to be implemented by multi-stakeholder partnership, which means that the government is no longer the only player when it comes to development cooperation. There are other players like the private sector, civil society. They are all playing more and more important roles in development cooperation.